I love actually having this conversation with other white folks.
Okay.
So, because a lot of them are adamant, more adamant than, black people about not using the N-word, right? They see their friend using it and they're like, no, shut up.
Don't break the rest, you won't make it. I don't even care where this road leads. All I know is when my heart is gonna live.
Shuckalaka, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters around the world. It is the chocolate Nubian soul brother, Chris Shule, and we got another chocolate brother in the house, Okeito. You've seen him on here before. He's back for another time because he did such an amazing job dropping the financial knowledge.
Boom.
We got him on here to talk about what's going on in the world, censorship, racism, all the different cliques in this world, and essentially just trying to make sense of the madness in this clown show. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure to like this video, subscribe, click on the bell, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your momos, drop us the comments, let us know what it is. Oh, and be sure to check me out on Patreon if you want to support me. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes time and money putting together a podcast of this caliber. I must say, I've had some upgrades. Okeito is someone that has an attention to detail, and we spent the last half hour just reconstructing my setup here. You guys can't see it, but Okeito spent the last half an hour explaining to me how messy. I mean, he initially said busy, but he's gone back and said it was messy. Because the first time he said it was busy, I'm like, what are you talking about, man? What do you mean my stuff is busy? But basically he meant that my shit was not very good in terms of...
a lot going on in the background, let me tell you that.
And I fixed that up. I've also fixed up the sound. But without further ado...
So now we sound sexy.
Yeah, give us a review on iTunes. Check me out on Patreon. And buckle up. Let's get this show on the road. All right.
Boom, 2 chocolates back in the pack. You could call us Kit Kats.
I like Kit Kats. Oh, yeah. Okeito, my brother, what's happening in your world? What's news, man? The tech mogul, the designer, I feel like you're a bit of a philanthropist. You're always helping people out, man. Like I always see you wanting to give knowledge and input to people, even when it's not necessarily wanted. No, it's not true. I actually do want it. Just try to be silly. But you're someone that does spend a lot of time giving out good advice to people, and I really admire that. You're very generous with your time and your knowledge, and I think the world could benefit a lot from your knowledge, brother. So
yeah, thanks.
What knowledge do you have to drop about the current state of the world, censorship, hate speech, and misgendering? Is that what they call it now?
Oh,
These are some of the topics that we're dealing with right now. I think a good place to start would be, what do you think about censorship and cancel culture? Do you think it's a good thing, bad thing? And elaborate.
Okay, so simply put, cancel culture is a no-no. I mean, if you're trying to cancel someone, okay, so canceling someone out of your life, like a boyfriend that abused you, yes, do that. Now, canceling people who just think differently, in your work, in your neighborhood, in your family, that's just not good for society at all. I mean, we've gotten this far in the human race due to bringing ideas to the table, people thinking creatively, thinking something that we didn't, to take us where we are today. If everyone thought the same, we wouldn't be here today, bro. And so by seeding this idea of cancel culture with no bounds on where it stops, we're just going to stop progress?
Okay, to play devil's advocate here, people say that Hitler was able to get momentum because he had these ideas that were very dangerous, and because we didn't actually cancel him to begin with, these crazy ideas, because it all started with this concept of the wave. Hitler starts saying, that the Aryans, whatever it might be, are superior, dangerous, hateful speech, whatever you want to call it, and then that propagates. So a lot of people make the argument that there are certain ideas that are so dangerous that we need to guard against. Because I'd actually make the argument, it is true that there are certain things, words are powerful, that can actually influence people. So the question, though, is whether or not or how we prevent those dangerous ideas from affecting the young, influential minds and so forth. So just to clarify, are you saying that canceling anyone in terms of like restricting their speech is always a no-go? And I guess we need, like, what do you mean by canceling? We've got to get specific with this.
I'll take the Hitler thing, for example.
Okay.
I would say, simply put, if you cancel things without letting them come out in the open, you can bind yourself to them. Like, for example, how do you know if someone's your enemy or how much of a threat they are if you've neglected them, you've ignored them, you've shunned them out, you've avoided them. You don't even know the threat's coming. You don't even know what it looks like now. You ever heard of the phrase? I'm sure you have, which is
close and my enemy's closer.
Closer,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah. And it's it's timeless because it's always proven true.
Yeah, I feel like the issue of not knowing what your enemies, friends are saying is not such an issue because everything is out on the internet now, all right? And I mean, I know what you're saying, that it's you don't want that to. I mean, let me clarify this. So your argument is that we should allow all of this speech, so people know exactly what they're dealing
Yes.
with, even the minds that are very influential. Because the argument, in the same way that we have codes for people that are too young or not able to deal with certain, like, you know how you have these ratings as a kid? I think they still have that, like RG and so forth. The idea is that whereas you and I will be able to delineate from, horrible ideas and so forth, or like you take someone like Andrew Tate, right? Can't have a conversation about cancel culture without mentioning him, right? And some of us will be able to see when he's joking, when he's kind of just taking some kind of a truth but exaggerating it. But the idea
of just straight up eliminating him.
No, the idea is that kids won't be able to delineate between that stuff. Therefore, it's not a good idea to expose them to this.
Yeah, but Andrew Tate isn't their father and teacher and pastor and, bus driver. He's one person on the internet for them. In this kid's life, there should be multitudes of characters, let's just even say their parents, that would have way more time and influence, as they should.
Should be. But unfortunately, the current situation is that there probably isn't. I mean, this is actually an issue
so we
within
can't
black culture a lot.
we can't
They don't
cancel
have father
Andrew
figures.
Tate just because of children.
No, I'm not saying we should. Look, I want to make it very clear. Guys, I'm playing devil's advocate.
I know you
here.
are.
No, but just to clarify, I'm under the opinion that I don't think it's a good idea to cancel people. That being said, I mean, I very much feel that way.
But you're raising the point about children.
I do believe that it is. In fact, I know it. Of course, it's potentially dangerous, and this is the whole issue.
Okay, so then where do you cut off the line? So then, because of children, should we not show people having sex on TV? Okay, no, only on special networks. But what if they get access to the network? So do we not show them anywhere? Do we not show any woman's figure because we don't want to show, where do you start cutting off the line once you start using any excuse and using children?
All right. Here's the solution, because this is the question. I think it's fair to say you and I are both under the agreement that people should not be canceled. And when I say cancel, I'm talking about these social media platforms coming together to essentially deplatform these people. Because we see censorship on all different levels, right? Like there's certain things that you can't type and so forth. Like I recently tried having an interview with Dick Jones, and that was the last guy I did an interview with. And by me simply using the name Dick Jones, TikTok wouldn't allow me to go live. That was a form of censorship right there, right? Yep. And I'm down with that. They're using some kind of automatic censorship.
Which is crazy because there's a lot of dudes named Dick.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, I believe they should be able to do things like that in order to prevent, But what? Because what's the alternative? To have no restrictions whatsoever? It's the kind of restrictions that I think we need to get at the heart of.
Yep.
I think the government has no place. This is my fundamental argument. Coercing companies and individuals to censor anything if it's not directly harming someone. So when it comes to freedom of speech, you should be able to say whatever you want, and this is where the real debate gets to. What is hate speech? Because I know a lot of you people out there are saying, yeah, but you shouldn't be able to say mean, harmful things to people that offend them.
But what's mean and harmful? And to who?
Exactly. This is why this is a nuanced conversation,
Yeah, it never ends.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts? What do you think about... Because obviously you don't believe in censorship, but when it comes down to it, would you say that you do believe in the right of these companies to censor?
Everyone, I believe that you have the right. For example, if you want to go about your life cancel culturing everyone that you don't like, go for it. You have that right. If you own a business and you want to cancel Jews if you want, like whoever you want to do, like do it.
A lot of people take issue with you, bro, for saying that, man.
No, I know they do.
But
like you always have
Okeito
a
is
choice.
not an anti-Semitic. That's
just like
in case.
Vegans choose to discriminate and eliminate meat from their diet. You have the choice, and everyone should have the choice.
Yeah, it's a nuanced argument though, because here's the thing, like. It's whether you are supporting something that is violating the rights of someone. Because look, from the leftist worldview, They think that it is their right.
Andrew Tate wasn't violating anyone's
I
rights.
I agree.
You could name a bunch of characters that have been canceled, and just because they say something you don't agree with.
Absolutely, but that we're in agreement. Because I think we'd be in agreement, right, with a lot of this stuff. Like, I think that if it makes sense to censor an organization, right, that, let's say, is kidnapping little kids and forcing them to actually be involved in actual sex trafficking, not this fake sex trafficking that people are accusing Andrew Tate of. And look, I end up seeming like I'm an Andrew Tate supporter. No, I just like to call out the BS, and there's a lot of accusations people make about him that are not true, right? But obviously, I would not want to support any. It's not just a matter of not supporting. I don't think governments should actually have a role in preventing organizations from doing things of that nature and so forth. But it's the things that are not violating anyone, that are not inherently wrong, that the government should stay out of.
Yeah.
Right. And like with the whole, like you made reference to the whole vegan thing, and this is a very kind of like tricky issue because a lot of people don't look at animals and humans the same thing. But in terms of like supporting an organization that is like slaughtering, these sentient beings and stuff
don't
like
support
that,
them.
I that's the issue though, in the sense that I don't think it should be allowed. So I would actually be in favor of there being some censorship in terms of restricting entities that actually support horrible organizations. Like the meat industry. There's essentially kids. But that's my assessment of that. It always comes down to what the line is. Where do you draw the line in the sand? I know a lot of the leftists feel as if hate speech is anything that is offensive. How do you feel about that? Like if I was to call you,
I feel like
a white person was to call
you could, but like you could wake up one day and you're feeling so good, and and no one could hurt you, nothing could offend you. You wake up one day and it's a good day, and someone could say something that they said yesterday and it offends you. So the point is, to be offended is gonna happen naturally. Sometimes not even because someone's trying to attack you.
Yeah, different state of mind.
Yeah, exactly. It'll vary. You're offended by this now. 10 years from now, will you be offended by it? Who knows? Would you like to shape your world like completely around it and eliminate people in society because of it? I don't know. Did it offend you 10 years ago? For some of these topics, it didn't. What happened? I don't know. I think getting to the crux of like, one, it's for someone to offend me. One, it takes a lot. I don't really get offended,
Yeah,
but like,
I'm the same.
but like, it could happen. But that's just natural. How is this new person I've met at a party who's just talking about something and boom, it just strikes home? How are they to know that?
All right. Well, let's touch on a topic that gets close to home for at least a lot of people within the black community. Racism. I mean, a lot of people would find that more than offensive. Like completely unacceptable. They consider that violent, which is a very expansive use of the word. Now,
Racism doesn't have to be violent.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I'm just clarifying.
Racism doesn't have. Yeah.
It comes in many forms. Yeah.
Absolutely. But my point is that whereas you're making the point that whether or not you're offended by racism could change from day to day, I think a lot of black people would take on the absolute standpoint that it's never okay for, let's say, a white person to use the N-word, right? Regardless of how they're feeling. And how do you feel about that?
I'm... So... Oh, man, do you want the...
Yeah, this is tricky. This is like a...
Do you want the...
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to speak from my own experience.
Okay.
One, naturally, I'm going to go with no, right? I'm just going to go with... no. Like, white people shouldn't be running around saying the N-word, right? No.
Well, okay. Can I clarify? Can I... Okay.
Before I go on
when
to
you say no, are we talking in terms of like it's not nice societally, or do you believe that the government or there should be some kind of punishment?
No, I don't believe this should be a punishment. No, it's a language thing.
Yeah.
No. We can handle that without the government getting involved.
Okay.
That's like a dispute with your neighbor about, I don't know, where your trash
Sure.
cans are in the morning. The government shouldn't get into that. Just fucking handle it between each other.
Sure. Well,
and if you can't, then take them to court. Weird. But like if someone's calling you the N-word and they make you feel uncomfortable in your neighborhood, and maybe you'll have to take it up a notch. But
when you may say, because I want to be clear here, are we talking about bitch slapping that brother or that because
violence?
Violence
is the last resort of never. You know what I mean?
Yeah. People call those words violent though, which is where I'm like, well, okay, we're on a different level here because I where I come from, words outside of inciting violence,
Words are
they're
not
not violent. Yeah.
No, like
But-
violence has a definite definition.
Yeah. Well, it's morphing, man. That's one of the tricky
Okay,
things.
but to throw a monkey wrench
Okay.
in the whole, I've had this with. I love actually having this conversation with other white folks.
Okay.
So because a lot of them are adamant, more adamant than black
Yeah,
people about not
I
using
know.
the N-word, right? They see their friend
Absolutely.
using it, and they're like, no, shut up.
Absolutely.
But anyways, so I grew up in the hood, right? So I grew up in Harlem, New York, and Jersey City, New Jersey.
Yeah, straight from the
And
street, man. This
Straight
guy's
from the
real deal.
streets. My parents were on welfare, like legit. And so in Jersey City, it probably still is one of the most dense and diversified cities in the U.S. And so there's a lot. I mean, you're talking about like Pakistanis, Indians, we were learning all the languages. And there's like so many different Hispanics from like Central South America, from the Caribbean, everyone. My high school had everyone, but just a sprinkle of white kids, just a sprinkle. But there was like tons of high schools in my city. Anyways, point is that in the hood, there's all of us. There's like Koreans, there's Filipinos, there's whatever. And in the hood, a lot of us were using the N-word. Not just black people. Because it's a term of endearment. It's like a friend. It's like in Australia, they use the C word to talk endearingly about people. And in the hood, we're using the N-word, right?
Yeah. But is that the N-word with an ER on the end? Or
No.
an A at the end?
It's
People make that
yeah.
delineation,
No, but like outside of the hood,
Okay.
there is no delineation. There's just like the N-word. Both of them are the N-word. You don't use it, right? In the hood, we're all using it. So there'll be another Indian kid, and he's coming up to me. He's like, "What's up, nigga?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And then and it'll be cool because we're all in it together,
Absolutely.
right? And and there'll be like a white kid, and he'll say, we're in it together. Soon as you know them, like the white kids are not from the hood, not from the area.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they dress the part, it's just the way they say. There's some delivery. You're not from here, and you could hear it in their voice. It's like, you shouldn't be saying that because you can't even say it. What you doing?
A lot of the times, I think it's the frame, it's the context in which your mind has this way of telling. You can basically telegraph how someone is supposed to behave by the way that you say something. And when you come from it saying in a way where you're like, yeah, everyone's supposed to be cool with it, people pick up on that vibe and they end up being cool with it. But when people say that, because I've tried saying it, and I'm pretty sure I'm saying it the right way, but because I don't have the same kind of swag, like confidence, that people from the Bronx had to have it. People are like, I once said this around Jamaicans, and they gave me a double take, what are you doing, boy? You can't be using that word like that. Come on. And I actually, I realized, but this guy was telling me, bro, you can't say that. It was this kid I was with, like his parents were like caught up with, they were really concerned about me using the N-word.
Yeah.
And explained to me, Jamaica, we don't do that, boy. And but I think it has to do.
It's a culture thing.
But yeah, I think it comes down to context, but more specifically, the fact that everyone has their own different understanding of the word. You mentioned in the Bronx, you guys were cool with it.
Not in the Bronx, but yes, in the hood.
In the hood. Is there a difference?
Harlem.
Yeah.
Wait, I said Harlem and Jersey City. You said Bronx. I'm just clarifying.
It shows how little I know about black culture, man. I just assume Bronx is like where
Bronx is
ghetto.
just another borough of New York. I was in Harlem, another borough. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it will be the same in the hood because that's so geographically close. Yeah, and I mean, any hood in the U.S., they're all saying it.
So how do you feel about white people using that word? It's such I hate using that phrase as well.
In the hood as a term of endearment.
Yeah.
Dude, I grew up with it and it was fine.
Yeah.
And now, I'm not in the hood. It's not fine. Why are you saying it? I mean, they say.
Oh, okay. So you change your attitude because you're not in the hood.
because it's within context. Yeah, why would you be saying it?
But wouldn't you have?
And how would you come up to me? I don't even know you.
Wouldn't you have the perspicacity? You can tell I've been listening to a lot of Andrew Tate. He often uses that word, right? But seriously, wouldn't you have the foresight to understand that someone is not intending to be negative when they use that word?
Yeah, and I'll just tell them you probably shouldn't use it nicely. I'm not gonna beat them up or something.
But why is that though? Because I would imagine
because it can be misinterpreted. I'm gonna tell them. So I've had this. I've gone to parties.
The geographical location.
It doesn't even have to be geographical location. I mean, just along the context, which may include geography, but it doesn't matter. Social context. whatever that is.
Because I don't want to call you up on this, man.
No. So you can call me up on it.
All right,
I'll clarify. Fine.
You
I'm
just,
gonna call
you just made
myself
the
up.
point. It's okay to call for your friends to call each other the N-word, right?
Yes.
You know, in the
Yes.
the hood, right?
Yes.
And then you said outside of that, you wouldn't be cool with someone calling you that outside, like in a
meant-
place like Australia.
I'll clarify. There's a misinterpretation there. So
Okay.
let's say my old friend. I'm trying to envision, an associated friend back in high school. What was his name? Alex. White boy. Whatever. Right.
Okay. That's kind of offensive, man. Some white people might find that offensive, you know.
and sure they would. They would feel uncomfortable. I don't want to be
Yeah.
called white, and that makes them feel weird. But guess what? This is language, and this is the free country. So you take that offense and you shrug it off, and you move on with your fucking day.
Okay. And you say you believe the same should apply when you use the when.
Wait, let me go back to that question though.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
let's say
We're jumping
like
ahead of the game. Yeah.
me and Mike back in high school, we would say it. He walk up and he was like, nigga, and I'm like, yeah, what's up? And you're like, done, whatever.
Okay.
Now that was in the hood. Now let's say he visited me here. Same dude from high school, and he's like,
Yeah.
what's up, nigga, what's up? It's fine because we both came from the place of understanding.
Sure.
Right? So I want to see that's out of geographical context, but the context that we were in that context, we get it.
Sure.
It's fine, right? And if you're black in your black culture, we get it. We get it. I don't use the word a lot, but I'll be like, oh, like I'll get it still,
Yeah.
right? Now just someone from, I don't know, where are we at? Pran, some like, white dude from Pran coming up on me on the word. Not okay. Where are you from? I don't know anything about you. Why are you saying that? I'm curious, and what I'm gonna share with them is that I'm like, fine. I'm like, you got to be careful who you say that word around.
Sure.
Like, some people will not be this cool as I'm if you use that word to me. You just got good on the lottery today. But keep playing the lottery if you want. But I'm just letting you know.
Sure. And look, I agree. It's the context. I guess to me, it's very easy to just limit the context of geographical location. There's so many other things that determine whether or not something's acceptable contextually speaking. Like whether or not you know that person well enough, whether or not it's just you two in the room, as opposed to within a public environment, right? Because there's certain people that, would use that word. Like, if I use that word around you, because it's something that I don't do, right? You'd be like, yeah, that's fucking weird. It has nothing to do with geographical location.
Trying some new stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you called me up and like, anytime I'm trying to be extra black, I'm always cautious being around Okeito because he knows that I'm being fake and he can pick that shit up like that. I'm talking about in terms of like African American culture.
In the hood, they would call me white. They'd be like, "Why are you using all them white words?"
Yeah, the whitest I've ever felt one time was you probably don't remember this, man, but there's this joke that we used to crack all my white friends up, and I'd be like,
"Why are you trying to be white?"
Yeah, I'd be like, "Yo, I'll be black," I could leave the room, and I remember using that around you one time. You're like, "Bro, you've been hanging out with too many white guys," and I was like, "Oh fuck, it's true."
Yeah, who says that? Like what?
But yeah, I think contextually speaking, it's always a thing. But in terms of whether or not there should be any kind of mandates, governments coming in,
no, done. No. Why? Because then that messes up the whole camaraderie that we have in the hood. Why would you fuck with that?
Yeah.
And then we can delineate. Like I can discriminate between someone who loves black culture but grew up completely in a white place, who loves everything about me and just wish they had black friends, and then they come upon me and they're fucking beaming with joy and they're like, I just really want to use the N-word, bro. I fucking love you guys. I can delineate from that in a conversation versus someone who just wants to slip it in just to bring back to slip it in to take a historical stab.
Sure.
And I'm just that's a poetic way of saying it.
I made reference to this in another podcast I did because a lot of people think of racism as obviously being a great evil, but the problem I have is that it's so difficult to call someone out on, because a lot of the times when people say racist things, they may be coming from a different worldview and whatnot.
Totally.
And I always try to delineate between the types of racism. Like there's this kind of racism that's in your face. A few hundred years ago, people would directly say things that made it very clear they did not like you, or they felt that they were superior to you based off of the color of your skin, your background, and so forth, right? That was direct.
That's still prevalent now. Like you're like, oh,
not as much not where I come from. Just hear me out. When I'm talking about the yin, right? Because there's yin racism, right? And then there's yang racism. Yang racism is overt, right? It's supposed to be the
I
masculine.
get
in
it.
your face. The yin is more subtle. It's kind of like when someone chooses they don't want to hire you. They say things.
I would
without
say
saying,
there's even another
Absolutely.
layer.
True, but when was the last time you had someone come up to you and say, "I don't like you, you black piece of shit," or something like that? That hasn't happened to me since high school. That kind of racism is not overt. It's more subtle. It's like, I don't want to work with this guy, so I'm just not going to.
No, yeah, exactly.
That's the yin I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really tricky when people.
There's another one too. There's a one where where someone tries to speak with you and they make all these assumptions that they don't know, and it comes off in their questions and their delivery, and you're like, oh, you're not racist that hard, like the racists we know, where you're like, you know, like you hate black people, whatever. Yeah. But like you've associated so much, and that's racism in this really indirect way.
I'm glad you brought that up because we're probably going to disagree in this. Like that is a thing.
I crashed a house party one time, and oh man, it was a bunch of kids that's like obviously growing up to be politicians in Carleton, and man, that happened.
Sure, that happens to me all the time. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. White privilege, black privilege, I have that shit as well, right? But the thing is, when I call something racism, like classically speaking, within the classical definitions, when you hold yourself to be superior to someone based off of them being a different race to you, so forth, and you have a prejudicial view towards them because of this. But when someone has, I call it pattern recognition, anytime someone just makes assumptions about whether what you're going to be.
Yeah, it's being prejudiced. Yeah, sure.
But it's not necessarily like what you're talking about. The last example you gave of racism, right? Like someone just assuming that you're going to be a good basketball player, you're going to be a big dick, prejudice. Have a big dick, which is probably true. That's not prejudicial, right?
I mean, you're prejudging. You're making a judgment, and it's beyond any information or validation. Like, racism is prejudice. Like, those two are like...
Yeah, okay, well, here's the thing. It is prejudicious, right? You've got me up in that, because it is prejudgment, right? For some reason, I always think of it having a negative connotation, but in terms of being racist, right? Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, what if you just think that women are going to be better taking care of kids, right? Is that... Yes, it is prejudice, is it not?
What do you mean? Women
are going to be better at taking care of kids.
Is that no color involved?
No color involved.
Well, so that's not racism. That's like more like...
Sexist?
Yeah.
But it's not... Yeah, fair enough. All right. But is not that a fair interpretation, generally speaking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then what is inherently
wrong? But that's called... Oh, but that goes back... That switches the conversation to more of, when... what do you call them? Stereotypes, right? Yeah, and people are like, stereotypes are bad. And you're like, but stereotypes exist for a reason.
But it's the same thing with what you're calling racism. That's a form of pattern recognition. Like someone seeing the black people are faster,
totally.
Running. When because typically speaking, there is science to show that.
And there goes the blend of language and life experience.
Yeah, that's why I get specific about, I don't call most stuff racism. Most people call racism.
Oh, no,
right?
Me neither.
So many people want to call everything racist, these days. And I'm like, come on, man.
I know. Like... U.S. government right now, like fucking everything.
It's like I feel as if, in a sense, even though we've abolished so much of racism, when I say we, I'm talking specifically in the United States. I'm looking at the history, right? Because more recently they've had the whole issue, outside of South Africa, they had a really messy issue a couple hundred years ago, had the emancipation and so forth. Mm-hmm. But where was I going with this? Whereas the racism was an issue now, it's not that kind of racism. It's a big issue in the sense that people have the racism of low expectations towards black people, in a sense, right? Because they assume
unless it's sports,
you're gonna have unless it's sports, right? They assume, right, that you're gonna. A girl once said to me on a date that I would, by virtue of just the reality of society, have more difficulty in getting a job if I applied for a job, and because I'm a black person, I'm like, girl, have you met me? I'm charismatic as fuck. I have no trouble if I go for an interview. But it was her racism of low expectations that allowed her to come up with that worldview, and that's what I think we're dealing with now. This is why we have. Yeah, how do you feel about that?
Well, so I've recently visited South Africa, Cape Town specifically, and the history is really recent in terms of when they ended the apartheid.
Yeah.
Well, like super recent, the 90s. That's like crazy recent. Like what? Anyways, when you go there now, you see. A place where people mingle or whatever. So I was there. How long was I there? Like a month and change or something by accident. I didn't plan for that. And I saw probably a total of max 5 interracial couples, right? And this place is like stupidly mixed, by the way. Like tons of white people, tons of colored people, tons, right? And you'd be like, in New York setting, like you see tons of mixed up. And the reason why I would say one of the contributing factors is because their apartheid ended so recently, you still have ramifications, and you hear this when you go visit there. You see it written. I had a tour for the museum, and they even say it. They move people into these certain areas, and when it all ended, people just didn't go like, "Oh, I'm gonna move everyone." No, people stayed where they. People have houses there now, a community now, so you tend to keep the same habits, and then. Like all the colored folks are like outside of the area and they have to commute in, so like who lives in this area? Generally white people. You have all these habitual cultural things that are so ingrained and they're slowly being chipped away, but look, it's solid as a rock. And so they have to unravel, you have to peel that, they have to decouple all those things, and that takes a while. So they're going to live.
Who is uncoupling all those things though? Is it the government?
Society as a whole.
Like
well, the government is supposed to do stuff. They've done stuff. Obviously, the ends of the apartheid, but you can't. I mean, they already done a lot forcing stuff. Do you really want to force? Because this is
the tricky thing. If people are choosing to segregate themselves in society, right?
No, they're not choosing anymore. They just still haven't. Think about it. You were forced out of your home by law and shoved into a shitty community by law. Yeah. And it stayed like that for years, and it finally ended. Yeah. One, and also you've been pigeonholed, you've been prejudged, it's racism, where like you weren't getting the best jobs, you weren't getting
100%.
You were shoved in this poor community, and you have lack of resources. Now everything ended, and they were like, all right, everyone go back to normal. But like, what is normal, and how do you get to the ideal normal now from that base? It takes a while. You're not gonna wake up, kick open your door, and be like, "Black people, we moving out. Where the fuck? Where you gonna move to?
Sure.
Like, and do you have the money? And you got to go get the jobs. And a lot of the people are still wired in the last way of wiring.
100%. And this is the tricky thing, and this is most likely an intergenerational thing. Like this is happening over the span of like
hands down.
Yeah, many decades, right? So the question is though, like what kind of policies does the government implement, right, in order to ensure that these minority groups are
encouraged to mingle and move
into society, because on some level, and this is where it becomes nuanced and an issue, it's going to require some kind of unfair, I would imagine, policies been acted on white people. Like you see these situations in South Africa where they want to kick white people off of their farms and bring back black people. And it's one thing if that black family has a claim to that land, like generationally speaking, you could prove that, right? But when you just randomly pick a white person and say, hey, you have money, get off this land. This, there are all these black people that are suffering, so you need to give up your spot. And this is the kind of attitude that you're seeing also in the States, right? Where people like I heard, what's Will Smith's wife? What's
Jada?
Yeah, I don't know how long.
Jada
she made some point a while ago about how people need to give up. Like she was trying to encourage white people to give up their seat to, this is metaphorically speaking, to underprivileged minority groups. I remember her making reference to this in a speech, and that's a common ethic that you find within pop culture. It's like you're so privileged, you should give up your position for black people. I'm like, well, that's a generalization. I mean, you should, if you want to do that, good on you, but don't force that stuff.
Yeah, forcing is a thing. I don't like the forcing as much as I'm a black person and whatever that means for the black community and life as a whole. I like meritocracy. I'm like, let me earn this. I don't want to get a job because we don't have enough black people. We'll hire you. No, I won't. I'm a very interesting person and I don't fit everywhere. When you hire me, you know what you're getting. Like I'm gonna bring shit to the table. I'm gonna like bring ideas, and you're not always gonna like them, and they might not always work, but like, you're getting someone who's able to push the envelope and think creatively. Like that's what you want. That's what you want when you're not because you're trying to fill a quota.
Absolutely.
Because
and I imagine that's not going to give you a very healthy psyche if you feel as if you're getting the job just because people are trying to fill a quota. Like I like to feel good when I'm doing. Like I like to feel needed.
But some of my or many white folks and my white friends, they bring up a good point.
Okay.
But this is the complexity of life. They bring up the point of, but you have these. Let's think about the financial industry or any industry that's like we're predominantly white at first, where they have habits as well of hiring white people from specific schools that are predominantly white. They have all these habits, and we are creatures of habit. I understand that stuff is hard to break, and that is a battle that we will have to face. And so it's a little bit of, I don't want a special handout. I want to earn it. But you are fighting the habits. Even when you think about algorithms, they're making out. Have you heard about all the algorithms that red black people faces wrong, or they made an algorithm to hire people?
Wait, what do you mean? Red black face? What are you talking about?
They made an AI algorithm where there was two different stories. One was about hiring, like trying to hire the best candidate or something, and they end up hiring specific people like that. The algorithm's racist, and when they looked at it, oh, what data did you feed the algorithm? It was like, oh, all the data back when they were hiring just like middle-aged white guys, you know. And then there was another, I think this was a Google one, where the black people kept being identified as gorillas or something because the AI wasn't trained on enough black faces. Right? And and so there's this whole there's even documentaries on Netflix, I think, about it too. I haven't watched them, but I remember reading about them. But yeah, it's just because you train AI on data sets, and so it has to be history data.
Well,
and
is data racist? I mean, if the data says something,
because it reflects a time where it was.
Yeah, but even now, like you can look at situations where
skewed hard in one way.
Because the problem I have is a lot of times people call racism when it's just pattern recognition, where people are, based off of the data they've taken into themselves, they are outputting a worldview that is consistent with that data. Like, oh, I know this area has a lot of poor.
But the pattern recognition could be racist, though.
But that's I wouldn't call it racist, right? Because if the black demographic, if the black community is behaving in a particular way, right? Now, granted, I do prejudge. In the sense that I have expectations, but I typically don't enact them, right? Like I always like to err on the side of caution. Like I'll come into a situation thinking that you're going to be X and Y, right? And then I'll be pleasantly surprised it's not like that. That you're not going to pop a cap in my ass just because you're from the hood, right? Mm-hmm. Now, just because I have that expectation doesn't make it racist. It's just based off of the information that I've been exposed to.
Yeah, and then you prejudge and judge the best you can.
Absolutely. But I'll tell you an individual that really fits this scenario. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't look at him as being a black individual. You know I'm going to mention here, but Andrew Tate, man. Because this guy's father, very famous, well-known, successful chess player, was a black man. And so, and you know, by virtue, at what point does it become not black, right? Because he is a black man.
I mean,
but a lot of
black.
people, he's black, man.
He's black.
But more specifically, he's developed this worldview because my friend was telling me this, like, we were both trying to figure out Andrew Tate, you know? Like, he was saying that he gets him because he understands that he's been brought up from a part of the world, Luton, which is a very difficult part of the world. And people that come from there have to have these very kind of strong, take no shit attitude mentality, have a very kind of like, you know, what a lot of people might call even misogynistic attitude towards, or just see things brutally and speak very brutally, right? And as a result, his worldview has been curated because of the environment that he has been brought up in, which is what you can say for a lot of people that express racism, you know, based off their environment.
Yeah,
totally. But here's a question, man. Like, it would be a shame if we didn't cover this. I think we may have touched on this in an early podcast. But what do you think about Andrew Tate? Love him or hate him? And then expand. You're going to be put into a category, bro, regardless of what you answer. So tread carefully.
It's not about treading carefully at all. I don't care about treading carefully that much because where's the, you know, I'm going to express myself. I'm going to express my opinions. The end, right? And if people want to cancel me, well, go do you. But it doesn't get us anywhere good anyway. So Andrew Tate, I watched not that many videos of him. You know, I finally watched his final video, that exit, you know, after he was canceled.
Yeah.
I watched that, and I watched, I think, like 2 interviews with him, but most of my experience have been these little snippets out on the web that people just capture up, and actually I didn't get any of the misogynistic ones, so I didn't know that was
just
a thing
first
until
and
later on.
Can you say love or hate, then expand? I know it's incredibly difficult and nuanced, but just then clarify.
I like him. I'll tell you why I like him. One, he's been successful in a number of areas. So if you want to look, you know, like I want to look up to people or whatever the case is, or just admire people, and he's someone who's excelled in sports and in other areas and in business. And, you know, I would like to own my own business and be successful in it. And, you know, like, he's done that. So, you know, if I had the opportunity to go under his wing for business, why would I not take that? You know, like, anyways. And also in terms of understanding social media and using the tool to elite level, he's done that. He has climbed from, I didn't even know about him, to everyone knows about him who doesn't even know about him. You know, like it's just like it's in their mouth, and they haven't even seen full videos of him. You know, it's wild. That level, that's like Elon Musk level. You know, like think about it. He's running multiple companies, and he's still on Twitter making people laugh and holding shit down. Like,
yeah,
they know how to use the tool.
Yeah, in a different realm. I could agree with that.
So anyway,
yeah.
I admire his use of the tool and also his use of language. He knows how to gain response from people, good and bad, and he knows that some of the bad works to the algorithms. Hence, knowing the tools. So the tools like controversial and if you do a little bit of that, you get a little bit of bump. You know, like it's what are you gonna do? Sprinkle a little pepper on it, and fucking it's a spicy dish.
Yeah, he's certainly someone that analyzes the environment. Like he's a big fan of chess, like I know you are. And
love chess.
But what he's trying to do, he's been incredibly successful at doing it. I don't think anyone has ever used social media like that. Like he had this whole business plan where through the Hackers University, essentially one of the affiliate programs allowed people to market Andrew Tate's business by making clips of him on TikTok and so forth. This is why, without having a TikTok account, he was going viral. And it was promoting him like we've never seen. That being said, I don't think it's that easily replicable. I think most people couldn't have their stuff go viral because he is, and I will say this, and I get called up for this, but when it comes to entertainment, I know what I like. He is by far the most entertaining, love or hate, right?
Yeah.
Charismatic figure. And when I say charismatic, being able to captivate you that I've seen probably since Bruce Lee, like and there are a lot of stuff I don't like about.
And there's a lot of charismatic people that, and
you
probably don't even like them. You know, like for example, Kanye.
Hitler was charismatic in a sense. I mean, how the hell, bro?
For sure.
Oh, I thought you were gonna disagree with me because if you can convince a whole bunch of people to do shit,
no.
I mean, what do you call that? Like persuasion, influence.
Hitler
doesn't mean he's a good
anytime
person.
it comes to interesting topics, I'm always coming from another angle. And
Yeah.
So my angle with Hitler is that everyone was just like, I hate Hitler, and I'm like. I like to give credit where credit is due. Hitler
Gotta be
was
careful of that shit, though.
no, like he was able to move
Anti-Semitic.
people. No, he was able to move people. No, forget the the bad
right.
shit. Cut out the like. For like, think of the devil, right? The devil is the top of the food chain of all evil shit. You gotta give him credit that you rose to the top. You rule that. You were king of the underworld.
And so influential.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, like, you got to give credit because if you don't, you are undermining, let's just call him, especially for the devil, that's your enemy, right? So you are undermining your enemy. And to think lesser of your enemy, that's a battle you're probably going to lose.
Sure. And I don't think it's necessarily thinking lesser of them in the field of ability.
You don't.
It's just in terms of moral value and so forth.
Yeah,
and,
that's why people don't like him. But I'm talking about this. So you cannot like someone's morals and
still like, I get that. It's just fair enough. In terms of him morally speaking, because this is always a very nuanced discussion, but okay, how about the influence that he's having?
Andrew Tate?
Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
How do you look at that? What are your thoughts on him there? Because the argument is that this guy is very dangerous. He's having a very pernicious effect on the youth that don't have the ability to discern some of the things he's saying. Therefore, when he's joking about, choke, smash, the scene I'm referencing and all this kind of stuff, they take this out of context. And the argument is a lot of them think it's appropriate to treat women like that. I mean, I
haven't seen that, but I've listened to at least the stuff that I've listened to. I guess I came later in the game where he was addressing a lot of them, so I'm like, oh, okay, stuff has been taken out of context and I missed it. And we all know how things can be taken out of context. Jesus Christ. Like, it happens in our own lives, and we've seen it on the news all the time. So, I mean... Yeah.
And one of the most frustrating things that I think we're all dealing with, anyone that is a content creator at the moment, is the censorship. I mean, granted, it's one thing to have your videos taken out of context, because Andrew Tate says that a lot of these videos were done years ago. Yeah. They were in long form, and the way that social media works now, people just take snippets, and they take things out of context and promote that. Fair enough, all right? But just based off of the algorithms in play, a lot of the times you don't even have human beings making these decisions to give you, whether it's a strike or to ban you. I mean, I recently was censored on TikTok, and that had absolutely. I've been on my best behavior for the last almost like half a year now. Initially I was posting a lot of videos about obviously the controversy around the you know, the pandemic and whatnot. You know the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And that was getting me in a lot of trouble, so I just stopped that. But the way that these systems work, all it requires sometimes is someone to report you. And if you've already developed this bad rating, it makes it easier for you to get suspended. And because I had a backlog, even though I hadn't done anything bad for over 180 days, right? Because I already had passed, like I had a profile that was
report
yeah,
record.
had a report, right? It's kind of like a criminal, you know. It's like you get your first strike, your second strike, and then regardless of what the circumstances were, get him out of here.
It's
Lock
like
him
in
up.
grade school. If you were bad, if you got in trouble with the teacher a lot,
Yeah.
if another child comes and complains,
Yeah.
more than likely she's gonna believe the child.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I got into a situation where some girl, and I'm pretty sure this is the case because when I had a look at her account, like I noticed, like, you know, she blocked me for no reason. It was literally a conversation. Like I was serenading this girl on the TikTok as I typically do, and she followed me, and she seemed somewhat interested, so I follow her. I'm just gonna say, look, I had a look because the whole thing around TikTok, right, is you don't want to risk yourself getting flagged if they're underage or anything like that. Fortunately, you can't message anyone that's underage, and this girl had her age in her profile, so that was fine. So I'm flirting with her. I'm asking where she's from. She seems keen, right? And you check the message, nothing inappropriate whatsoever.
That was a very normal
yeah,
message.
as soon as I think the worst I said was, you know, your dog's almost as cute as you are, kind of thing.
That message was so normal. It's
but because
painful.
I imagine her boyfriend, because I kind of asked her if she had a boyfriend in the sense it was like, oh, your boyfriend must be.
Did not answer that question.
Yeah, must be a lucky guy. But she didn't respond to it, right? So I get the impression, this is a presumption, that there may have been that factor. And I say this because a few days later, I'd realized that she basically blocked me, right? And then I received some kind of suspension. I was trying to figure out what it was before it. Was it this video I did with Dick Jones where I was saying inappropriate stuff? Or because that could have been a thing. I told you I got censored for using the word dick, right? But then it made sense that it was probably a message I'd sent, and this was the only message I'd sent in the last week, right? And so I was like, what? Maybe this crazy Momo reported me, right? As a way of like trying to prove to her boyfriend that this guy's stalking her, when it wasn't even like that. I mean, she was asking me questions and a whole bunch of things, and I just figured she wasn't interested, so I didn't respond to her. Maybe she's annoyed. But the idea that all it takes is someone just to report you, hit one button, and I'm like, I was trying to figure out what it could be. And because here's the thing, I make it an effort on TikTok to be as nice as I possibly can. I don't say anything inappropriate. I'm not all kind of gung-ho like I am on YouTube, because it is a community, and all it takes, I've seen my close friends that have like over 1 million followers have their account completely just destroyed, just like that, because they were saying things that were not popular. They weren't, you know, they were calling people, they're saying that they hate, you know, trans and things like that. Or they just weren't using gender pronouns, right? And that was enough to have people just report them. So it's just the nature of social media where you have to be in your best behavior, because all it takes is not you having violated any terms.
It's not even about best behavior, too. It's so what
people like you or don't like you. Yeah,
you're on your best behavior, but you got reported. So what is best behavior? What is bad behavior?
Well, the terms and conditions, and I actually went through all of that stuff. Because there's hate speech, then there's, you know, inappropriate conduct, but ultimately it just came down to someone wanting to report you because they didn't make me feel
comfortable.
Yeah, or I mean, and look, in all honesty, it really wasn't that. It's a case of I don't like this person, I'm going to report them.
Actually, we're just assuming because that conversation ended on a good note.
Yeah,
like it was such a normal conversation. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm fine with you. Yeah, you're cute. Yeah, you're cute too. Yeah, your boyfriend, you know, is a lucky guy. Dodge that question. Okay, moving on.
Exactly.
Yeah, you want to hang out sometime? Yeah, maybe. Talk to you later. Bye. And then blocked and then banned. Like what? How does that? What?
Exactly. That's pretty much it. And you read through the conversation, so I'm like,
doesn't make sense.
And I'm thinking now, okay, I can't even risk having conversations with people because now I might. And a friend of mine, we have a mutual friend. I don't want to you know, out this guy, but one of the major like issues that I had with this guy, he actually made, because he became all kind of like social justice, full on feminist, and had this. I remember, you know, the Gillette commercial. The Gillette commercial. It's classic. You haven't. Shame on you, Okeito.
The Gillette commercial? I've seen a lot of commercials in my life.
It's the Gillette commercial, because when most guys reference Gillette now, they always reference this.
I probably don't know it.
Most of the audience, you know what I'm talking about. It's a commercial where it was a promotion for Gillette, a feminist kind of a take on things. What
was it? Just tell me.
Basically, they're promoting
women shaving.
No, they're promoting like talking about toxic masculinity.
Oh.
And there's a scene where this guy is
The Gillette?
The Gillette. You haven't seen it. I'm gonna send it to you, bro. It's a.
Okay.
basically, there's a scene in that where a guy is about to approach a woman. He sees her, it's like fine, approaches her, and then this guy, being the white knight, it basically stops this guy. It's like, and the whole narrative is that you shouldn't be approaching women because that's toxic masculinity. And
Right.
I had a
So
friend.
then how do you meet them? Tinder?
Exactly. My friend
At the
actually
party?
suggested that.
You're like,
yeah.
where's
Tinder.
she? Where
And
is she?
This became a massive debate, right? And check this out. The guy basically said that, look, we should take a vote on whether or not you're allowed to approach women. And I fucking
no, we
lost
shouldn't.
it. Yeah, I
That's
lost
dumb.
it. Yeah, I'm like,
Vote amongst your friends and do that. Not,
Yeah,
not society
not me.
as a whole. Not,
that's the
not
shit.
a social platform as a whole.
absolutely.
You know what? Just keep that shit in your house, actually.
Yeah, but look, it's been done now.
You know how
Much-
many friends get approached by guys? That's how they meet their guy. Before Tinder and the internet,
Yeah.
you had to approach.
Absolutely. In
Or
fact-
are you gonna wait for girls to approach you? Because guess what? That shit is not gonna happen. Actually, it does. One in like, I don't know how long I've been alive. 5 times ever.
Look, in fairness, girls will typically, in my experience, they will indicate to you that they're interested in, and they want you to approach them. But it's rare that a girl will have the balls,
But it's also like signal game as well. Like, what if you misread the signal? Because everyone's signals is different. Every girl's signal is different.
Absolutely.
So
But that's why I say, like, you're not allowed to even just get things wrong. Like, it's one thing if you think someone's into you, but then you find out they're not. I mean, the worst thing I do is I look at a girl, I'm like, hey, you should catch up sometime. And then when I get that weird kind of reaction, I'm like, oh, okay, I was wrong about that. Usually my Jedi instincts are on point, but
how
if
dare
I'm wrong
you
about
offend me by asking me out?
That's the thing, offense. And I brought this up with a girl one time, and she said something like, "Oh, you shouldn't expect that a girl wants to talk to you." And I'm
It
like,
wasn't an expectation. It was a question.
well, yeah, but the thing is, like, I try to have the expectation that a girl's interested in me, right? I'm allowed to have whatever expectation I want.
Yeah. No, it's also called come. Could you imagine approaching a girl like? She's gonna hate me. She's gonna hate me. She's gonna hate me. She's gonna hate me. I don't even know why I'm doing this. Oh, she's gonna totally tell me. She's gonna, and then doing it like who? Like, what? Would you even want that guy?
Exactly.
Like, no.
I watched. There's a How I Met Your Mother episode on this. It kind of talks about the psychology of. I can't remember what the phrase was, but there's this attitude where, when a girl is kind of like just in the situation, like she's just with you. Let's say you go on a date and you, I'm not sure if this relates now. This might be a little tangential, but basically you take your clothes off. It's like this move where you kind of just go naked, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
they pulled the naked man or something.
The naked
it's
man,
called.
absolutely.
I remember that.
And
That's
I think,
so funny.
I think the logic was, look,
That's
if
so
if it's already there, the girl's kind of just gonna go for it anyway.
Damn, it's
Yeah.
weird. Like
And it's like,
in some circles, that's assault. That's a sexual assault now.
yeah, obviously you wouldn't take your clothes off, but I do have a lot of respect for the psychology. Just do it and get the courage to do it after you've done it, because if you go for it, right, and you find yourself in that situation.
Oh, remember? I didn't live during this. I didn't live here during this time, but in Australian culture, they had passion dash.
Passion.
Where so you would be at a party and then they would just run up, kiss you, and like run away.
Bring that, yeah. You see, girls can afford to do that kind of stuff because it is a double standard, right?
No,
Like-
but that was even back then. That was before this
Yeah.
environment we live in now. So that's like assault now.
Yeah. And I'm not advocating for anyone taking their clothes off in front of women.
And I
by
don't
the
think
way,
that's
yeah.
actually assault, but I'm just saying
But
if charges get brought.
yeah, but look, I feel like it's better just to try to approach someone, and look, chances are, like, I've been in situations where someone I feel may not have been that interested in me, but because of the circumstances, and I had the confidence, they're like, why not anyway,
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, for sure.
that being said, I feel like there's a lot you can get away with when, I think this is the psychology that I was getting at, like, when someone's interested in you. This is another thing from How Much You Met.
Oh my god.
I got it mixed up. Yeah.
The difference between interested and not interested.
Yeah, like when something is offensive, right? When
It's like
someone is
utopia
when you
in
don't
the
find
world
someone
of
attractive, all right? So, attractive guy can approach you and can say all the worst things, call the N-word, whatever it is, right? And you'll be like, "Oh, that guy was so charming." But when an unattractive guy does that shit, it's offense. It's sexual harassment. And there's an episode that highlights that.
No.
That's the episode I wanted to
You
talk
meet a
about.
girl or go out on a date with her. She likes you. The next day, she works later than you. You leave, go to the cafe she works at, drops off some sorrow, say, "I hope you had a great day. If not, hopefully that makes it better," and bounce. And you're like, "He's the sweetest guy ever." Same scenario, but you didn't like the guy on the date anymore. You're not attracted to him. He's a stalker.
Exactly. And that is that is exactly what I was trying to illustrate. It all comes down to...
I'm not saying every girl does that, but there are girls where it's that black and white. I mean, a lot of other girls can sort of see that, that was sweet, I'm just not interested. But there's some girls that's like, oh my God, I can't believe you came to my work.
I know. And look, I've listened to the perspective of many girls that I've dated talk about guys doing things that were inappropriate or them, what they claim. And look, this is a real tricky topic because obviously neither of us is for any kind of like guy behaving inappropriately.
Totally.
Whatsoever. But a lot of the times what girls say constitutes as rape is just absolutely ridiculous. Like a girl that I was seeing once told me that because a guy bought a lot of stuff for her and made her feel uncomfortable because she had this expectation, when the guy asked her to come over to her house, she felt as if she was obliged to do that. Therefore, she was coerced into going into her house and sleeping with the guy. And then and then I've had girls say...
That's so far.
Yeah, I
mean, where were your decisions and all that?
Absolutely, girls.
But I felt compelled to say no. It's good to feel compelled.
Yeah.
But you can still say no.
Exactly. On Tinder one time. Actually, this is on Instagram. We moved it to
Instagram. But you don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand. You made me feel uncomfortable. Like, you just don't get it. Girl said that to me one time. You just don't get it. That's how I feel. Your feelings
just
have nothing to do with it. Yeah.
But I said no. Just keep saying no.
Or it's inappropriate.
Or just don't go.
Do you ever get that?
Don't get in the
It's
car.
inappropriate to do that? Like, you ever get, like, the inappropriate thing from women?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, they'll say it's inappropriate to do that, right?
Do what?
Do anything. Like, once I was messaging a girl, right? She seemed keen. We agreed to catch up.
Yeah.
And I thought, this girl's really attractive. Fuck it, I'll risk it anyway. Yeah. I invited her over, which is look, guys, I'll be honest. That's my typical game plan. I'm like, I don't have time to mess around. It's like, we can just chill, watch some, sometimes nothing. Actually, not really. Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. But the girl messaged me saying, I don't, she used the phrase, you're pressuring me for sex. And I'm like, what? I mean, yeah, in my mind, I'm hoping it will lead to that.
Did you mention sex? No.
No. Had no conversation whatsoever. But I just suggest, you should come around sometime. And that's right. She told me she doesn't like being pressured for sex. And I was like, what? And this is the kind of insanity, like people will make that leap, or women specifically, I find. And like a lot of women, will play this game where they act as if they had no choice in the matter. Like a girl that I, hooked up with not long ago, was, I don't want to oust her. I'm obviously not going to use a name, but I don't want to get back to me. But it's basically speaking of a situation where they want to have sex with a guy, at least it seems like that. And then they kind of like, they just freeze up. And they're not enthusiastic about it. So the guy, this is someone they're with, right? They've been dating for a long time. So the guy, takes the next step, and then they cry rape when they didn't resist. They're like, imagine making out with someone, and they move on to the next.
Tough.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, I froze, and like I didn't really want to do it. It's like, well, you should have said that at the time.
I mean, the guy should be able to be like, well, she's acting weird. You all right? But then at the same time, if this is I'm just playing devil's advocate, and also exactly. Naturally, but then at the same time, replaying devil's advocate is also like, well, I don't know their interaction. Maybe she's the type of girl that is a starfish anyway, so you can't even tell the difference.
Yeah, that's why enthusiastic consent is supposed to be a staple.
And also, like, what enthusiastic consent. The thing about I find out about this topic is that everything is situationally, I guess by situation, it's all different. Like in one context and in one situation,
sure,
this is good, and in another one, this is bad. Like for example, I had this conversation with many girls that I know because it's been on my mind over the years. Because growing up, you see, society has sort of changed a little bit, and how men interact with women have sort of changed. And then I'm just finding this interesting. I'm asking women now, like, what they make of this world. And wait, hold on, where I'm going with that.
Well, we're talking about enthusiastic consent and how it's contextual and how people
yeah. So so it's like how, for example, there's women that don't want to be approached, right? Like we were saying before.
Sure.
There's a group of women out there that's like, that's gross. Like, they call the cat calling can cover a broad spectrum for them. Like talking to someone on the street. I had a girl say like, who would talk to me on the street? Why would you talk to me on the street? you know. And then there's the girls that are like, oh my god,
Yeah,
I had my friend the other day. This guy just picked me up and asked me for my number on the street, and it was amazing to her that someone would approach her on the street, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, see, like, and then girls in that one circle think like, why don't guys know this? Every guy should know this. There should be a handbook, a manifesto of all men and all the direction of women. And I'm like, I have a lot of girl best friends over the years, and I dated a lot of girls over the years, and I'm just like, and in my head, I'm quiet, but I'm like, that don't make fucking goddamn sense, because there's tons of different women that are not fucking like you at all.
You won't work it, don't break the rest, you won't make it.